Hello everybody, welcome to Film Addict, Volume 1, and a vinyl, not a vinyl pick, but a Blu-ray pick. And we just viewed Psycho 2, and we're going to review this, and we're going to have some spoilers in here, so there's a spoiler alert, and what were your thoughts on this?
Okay. Originally, I will say we were going to start off with Psycho 1,
But who are you?
My name's Kent. I've been helping with video editing. Chili is not the most tech-savvy guy in the world, but he kicks my ass when it comes to vinyl knowledge and playing guitar. Hella good. I'm trying to learn the bass. We're working at it. For those who've heard of Rockstar, you know where I'm getting at.
But we are like film addicts too, so this is the one that we agreed to view first. And so you were saying?
Okay, so when it comes to Psycho 2, right? So it's 22 years later, and I was always curious why we didn't have more Psycho movies between the original up until, when did you say this came out? Like in the mid-80s?
Yeah, mid-80s.
Right, because between Psycho 1, we had the John Carpenter Halloween movies, we had the Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street, all of those classic slashers that came afterwards. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then we got even more out there with like Leprechaun and
Like
Child's
Friday
Play,
the 13th.
Friday the 13th, which you have like every single movie. So Psycho 2 starts off black and white, and I feel like the movie had a lot of plays and nostalgia, right? So we started off looking at the same angles.
Yeah, because they started the film with the classic shower scene, right? From the original film, which I thought was cool, just like, whoa, okay. And just kind of like bringing back to this story and everything of Norman Bates. At first I thought the pacing was kind of slow. There were, you know what I mean? But I mean, as far as like, having him, in the system, in the court, and the original Janet Leigh's sister was reprised her role, and she's getting the petition to like prevent him from going, being released and everything, and that little storyboard with her, I thought that was cool, and then how it takes a little twist. They try to get him rehabilitated. He has a social worker that's helping him and trying to get him back into society. And sometimes there was Dennis Franz, who was running his motel while he was out in the hospital. Is like he plays this drunk guy, and he's just like, calling him out like, you're a psycho, you're a loony, and this and that, and when the bodies start to happen, the body count starts to happen, you're trying to figure out like it's setting you up like it as if it's not him, which was really cool. I thought that was really cool.
What I'll say too, one thing that I've always liked about Norman Bates' character is it's kind of like a kid that he's getting bullied, right? Like when you go to school, there's always that one quiet kid where you always feel a little sorry for him, and he's maybe a charming kid and he's always nice to you, says sweet things to you. You're the type of guy or girl, right? You end up seeing this kid getting bullied, you want to step up, you want to defend him. And even though I know Norman Bates is a psycho, if you're watching Psycho 2, there's a part of you that starts to go, stop fucking with Norman, okay? Norman's trying to get his life back on track, and you have all these characters that get involved that they're fucking with him. They're leaving these notes, right, from his mother, and there's these phone calls. And then you start to debate, like, is Norman Bates even the bad guy here because there are people who do get rehabilitated. I'm not defending, whatever atrocious acts have happened in the past, but I do know there are people who have done some things for their reasons, and they have got better. They paid their debts to society.
7 murders.
7 murders, okay? I don't know how. He had a great doctor and a lawyer, okay? And he starts off and he's working at a burger joint and
the
diner, and I already knew he's gonna go right back to, if he owns the hotel, he's gonna eventually go back into managing it, and that's the first thing he does. He fires the other manager. He wants to take over the motel. He pretty much doesn't like the way it's ran because now there's people coming just having sex, drugs, and as we know, when it comes to the dialogue between his mother and him, it's really like conservative, old school values, the way that they kind of have these conversations. So already he kind of wants to act out the will of his mom with that motel and the way it's ran.
Well, because also when he first came in at the motel, and going back to the old house, there was like some, him trying to. He was hearing things. He was hearing voices, and so you're kind of thinking like, is this some of this stuff not real? Is this all in his head? And and as the bodies started getting, like the people getting killed and everything, is this just not just who is it him, but is he really all fixed, or is he just really still screwed?
And that's what's so great about like older horror movies, because today you have all your CGI, you have all your effects, right? And it dives straight into the violence and the gore. I'm going to say this movie doesn't have a lot of violence and gore for the majority of it. Kind of like Chili was saying, the pacing is a little bit on the slower side, but it's a slow burn. There's a lot of tension throughout because you don't really, while we're watching the movie, is it really Norman Bates? Is it really the character of Mary? Or is it Mary's mother, which...
because Mary plays the waitress that he meets at the diner, and spoiler, her mother is the sister that got killed in the first film, and so they have a vendetta, to try to
hatched a plan.
Yeah.
Years in the making. Apparently, she's had a petition. She's even at the courthouse trying to convince everyone not to let him go, that he's a psycho.
Yeah.
And I mean, her pleads don't really go anywhere. So she takes action to her own hands, and it's like there's this whole elaborate setup. So that way, her daughter's working at the same diner where he gets a job, and the daughter has an argument with her boyfriend and needs a place to stay, and conveniently ends up crashing at Norman's house, and then Norman, he's getting fucked with the whole entire time, and then I think some of the scenes he really truly is hallucinating, and he's back in his head where he was at in the first film, but then I think there were some scenes where Mary and Mary's mother they kind of had this joint effort to take him down, but that all turns at one point in the movie when Mary pretty much locks Norman into the attic, and I guess a boy ends up... Spoiler alert. I mean, it's impossible to do movies where you want to enjoy talking about it without spoilers. I mean, that sounds like kudos to the guys who can do that, but we're not feeling...
These are classics, and we I'm sure that the majority of people have seen this film, and
we should do like a rating out of 10, so that way it'd be like Chili and Kent's rating.
Yes, because I would say one thing I liked about this film was that there were certain, and I was kind of mentioning it, there's the way they were shooting the film, the cinematography, they were doing a lot of homage to Hitchcock. The way he was doing some shots from the first movie, they kind of brought it back, like the little panning that they would do, like, okay, they're doing like, these pan shots, what they did in the first film. And they would kind of like bring in scenes that they were reminiscent to the first film.
The
like,
swamp.
Yeah, the swamp.
His dumping ground of
where it was
to go to place.
So that was cool. It was sort of just like, it's for the fans, like, okay, that was good. Just like, when people, like, you see like the first Force Awakens, it was more like, okay, they're doing A New Hope again. It's for the fans, these little scenes. But they were still keeping it fresh, but while at the same time paying homage to Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, I was going to say The Force Awakens just felt like a complete rehash. This doesn't feel like a rehash because it's sort of, if we believe that Norman Bates was like the killer at the very beginning of the film, which you do, they throw everything at you to believe that he is not the killer. The whole entire point of that movie is to make you disbelieve that he is the same person from the first film, and they even introduce another character
That we won't say.
And that we won't say.
But that was the twist.
That was the twist, and I won't say what that character is responsible for. And let's just say Norman Bates isn't alone. Okay.
Yeah, that was.
In a way, I feel like that is too much of a spoiler, but you know what? Fuck it. Like,
yeah, that was a cool fucking part. It was just like, yeah,
Doggo.
it was really good. And this is our mascot dog. Come here, Bobo. Okay,
I guess
well,
he's camera shy.
yeah. So I mean, for Psycho 2, it's not better than the original, of course.
But it's not a disappointment. I mean, a lot of those older slasher movies. I mean, we got like Halloween 2, right? I mean, there's some good one. I would put this in the good category, not like Predator 2, right? I mean, this would be in the better category of sequels that I've seen for slasher type horror movies. I mean, the only thing so this one was more of like it's always been psychological, right? And like psychological suspense is what this felt like to me, whereas the first film was kind of like it was like a crime, like a let's see here, because at first it was like a noir crime kind of deal with the detective, and then it became like
it just switched in the middle of the movie. That's the genius of Alfred Hitchcock, and this one it was just like it was a guessing game because you kind of want to root for Norman, but then at the same time, just like and they'd say the same things. Like he seems like because he's being set up, it's like, oh, so I seen this person in a dress, or who is that in the window? And he's talking about he's seeing his mother and all this stuff, and he thinks the mother's still alive, and everyone's all like, well, maybe it's just in your head and all this stuff. So it was a good. I thought the sequel was really good. I just felt like in the beginning it was still kind of slow paced. He didn't have a problem with that. I was kind of like, okay, but at the end is like I would say the best part of it.
What I do like about it, okay, is if I were to make something where if there was a comparison between what Psycho 2 did better than Psycho 1, which means it's a classic, there's very few things I could say, but that slow burn pays off because the characters, there's more rapport that is built between them. I feel like the attachment between Mary and Norman and like the things that they went through and the conversations that they had, I feel like that was a much more meaningful interaction between Norman than he had with the other characters from the first film.
Well, she kind of normalizes him or humanizes him.
Right.
That's the thing, and so I give her that. That's a cool thing. So yeah, I do agree with that. I just like how it's set up. So at the end, when it says Bates Motel and vacancy, the lights go on. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Now
we're back in business.
Yeah. Now we're ready for the next one.
So apparently there are more films. I've watched like all the classics with like the Hellraisers. For whatever reason, I haven't watched all the Psycho movies.
Yeah, I haven't watched Psycho 3, so we'll get into that.
And we'll see where that lands us. Eventually, I feel like Norman's going to be... And I got to watch Bates Motel, too. So I'm sure whoever's watching this, if you're into, like, Psycho, I'm sure you could drop all sorts of...
It's classic.
Wisdom.
I mean, you'd have to... I mean, if you're into all these type of movies, you got to go to where it all started. And Psycho and Psycho 2, this franchise is, I think it's really good. I haven't seen the Bates Motel, but this is a good follow-up. And I would say out of 10 stabbing knives, I would say
10 stabbing knives?
I give it,
What do we consider a 10 though, and what would we consider like a 1? Like, is 1 like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? Or, well, obviously that was meant to be what it is. Let's see here, Psycho's classic.
Okay, if we would have to say 5 stabbing knives, we make it like 5 stars, 5 stabbing knives. Okay. I give it 4.
You give it a 4? I mean, it's funny. It's funny because you would think the way I'm talking about it, I'd give it like maybe a higher score than him.
I was thinking 3.5 to 4.
I'm thinking like I'm doing like points, like 3.8 Okay. 3.85.
Stabbing motions.
Okay,
Yeah.
which so like
I would say 3.5.
average is 3 in my mind, and for this where we're doing our 1 through 5, average is about 3, and like 3.5 is like, oh, it's better than average, and I think like this is way a little bit better than average. I mean, it's a good movie, but if it was a 4, I would rewatch it probably. Like if it, every Halloween that came up every other year, I'd probably watch it. And I wouldn't
because
mind.
another thing about this film is that in the 80s you had like this whole array of like slasher films and everything, and a lot of them were kind of low budget. I mean, this is on a high, big level, big studio, production.
I will say that it did. I did notice that it took the element of the '80s campy killing, and when that one scene where there's this couple that sneak into the basement and there's the hot teenage sex and they get killed in the middle of their, well, not necessarily in the middle, but it does get interrupted because of the killer.
Coitus interruptus.
Yeah, so there's that campy killing from the other '80s movies, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. I liked Psycho for what it is, and Psycho is just, to me, it's always been kind of this eerie, creepy something. Someone's always watching you. In this film as well, there's always eyes
the
on you.
very good thing about this, like without saying about the ending, but at the ending of the first movie, they kind of do something kind of similar where he's sitting there and then and that fly comes down and sits next to him, and the mother's voice is going through his head, and then you're waiting to hear that voice again. I'll just say that, when he's mimicking the mom's voice, it's like, oh shit, it's back.
And if you like twist, Psycho, I mean, obviously the first one it had a massive twist. I was impressed that Psycho 2 decided, fuck it, we're also going to do a twist. And that was cool to see a twist in this movie as well.
Yeah, especially how that person just kind of talked.
It's like, I don't know, that I'm still debating whether or not I like that, because it felt like, is it forced? Was it kind of lazy? I mean, does it take away from other things that I saw in the movie? And I haven't made up my mind yet, but I will say it's interesting. Whether I like it or I don't like it, it definitely threw me off. And I guess I'll leave it at that. 3.8.
3.8. Yeah, I was gonna say 3.5 stabs. So it's Psycho 2. We'll be back with some more films, in the future, and of course, leave a comment. What did you think of Psycho 2? And if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. It's a great Blu-ray.
Oh, I got it over here. And hopefully, I mean, we're not in the Halloween season just yet, but screw it, we're getting closer and closer towards the end of the year. It's getting a little bit cooler. I love thrasher films. Thrasher. I'm thinking now of the genre, the vinyls and everything else. But no, I love all that horror stuff. And
so this is Film Addict.
So we'll be cool with it.
Yeah, the Blu-ray pick number 1, Psycho 2. And so subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
All right.